Welcome to Drunk Poets See God, online edition. We're coming to you live from all over the world. Well, not exactly live, but anyway, we're coming to you from all over the world. Drunk Poets See God. My name is
Hi.
Sam, and this is my
my
co-host.
my name is Sorcha. Hi everybody.
Hey, hey.
We're coming to you from Zoomland.
Yes, your hosts are here in Tokyo, and we've got people from all over the world. We got people from California, the Philippines, England, you name it.
Australia as well. So
Australia.
Philippines, Chiba, Birmingham, Southern California, and good old Tokyo. It is the final Friday of the month. It is May 29th, 2020. We're still in quarantine, and we are, making the best of it. So, Sam, would you like to take it away and introduce our first poet performer?
Sure.
Well, which is you,
Oh, that's me.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's me. I'm first up tonight. Yeah. So, yeah, my name is Samm Bennett. I'm a musician, and I'm going to read a couple of songs. I'm not going to sing them. I'm just going to read them. First one is called Swamp Root Liver Cure. If your fingertips are sore, even when you haven't been playing your banjo, if your skin is clammy and your ears hurt when you dance, if you suffer from mental fatigue, undue stress, or ingrown toenails, I've got what you need, people. Now's your chance. Swamp Root Liver Cure. You need Swamp Root Liver Cure. If your blood will not coagulate or coagulates too easily, if your urine is dusty, if your saliva is blue, if your mind can't align with the world so you don't know shit from shinola, don't worry about nothing. I've got just the thing for you. Swamp Root Liver Cure. You need Swamp Root Liver Cure. If your veins and vessels don't run right, if your eyeballs itch and swell, if your ligaments move your bones in unpredictable ways, if your thyroid gland goes missing, if your pancreas is hit by a train, this'll clear those problems up in a couple of days. Swamp Root Liver Cure. You need Swamp Root Liver Cure. If your nervous system is down and your spinal cord is diminished, if your esophagus ain't got a snowball's chance in hell, if your brain is lost in space, if your thigh bone's connected to your wrist bone, just a couple of bottles, friend, is gonna make you well. Swamp Root Liver Cure. You need Swamp Root Liver Cure. Thank you. Swamp Root.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Give me some of
yeah.
that. Give me some of that.
Yeah, we all need some of that, don't we? So I'm just gonna do one more, and this is an old song of mine, kind of, about New York City. Some of y'all might have heard it before. It's called Lexington Avenue Line. There's just the stingiest sliver of a sky. Plate glass windows capture the clouds. The wind and the rain have been subdivided, the very last singer-songwriters wrapped in a burial shroud. And the key to the city is buried way down deep, so let the Lexington Avenue line gently rock you to sleep. There's footprints on the ceiling, rumors being passed from ear to ear. 100,000 streets, and not a single one of them lead you out of here. Every little thing is expensive, except the talk, of course, that's cheap. Just let the Lexington Avenue line gently rock you to sleep. Your mother and your father, they're long gone, and all the lovers like a broken string of beads. The newspapers blowing all across Broadway like some kind of crazy tumbleweeds. So go ahead and let it out. You won't be the first to just break down and weep. Then let the Lexington Avenue line gently rock you to sleep. There's a spotlight that burns right through your curtain. Your prayers have been recorded and then reversed. What used to seem spontaneous and impromptu Now it just seems too goddamn well rehearsed. And the Lord is down on his knees begging for a soul to keep. He ought to let that Lexington Avenue line gently rock him to sleep. Now I was sure I'd someday overcome those crazy odds, but my banner of triumph is not yet unfurled. I've heard it said so often that I almost do believe that this town's the smack dab center of the world. And I could go up in that tall, tall building, take myself a flying leap, but I'm just going to let that Lexington Avenue line gently rock me to sleep. Thank you.
Yay.
All right, coming up, we have Mr. Lawrie Hunter. He's an old regular here at Drunk Poets See God. There he is, in the comfort of his own home. Lawrie, take it away.
Good evening. Wonderful to be back in touch with everybody. I must say, I have missed you. First, I'd like to eulogize a poet who died this month. Irish woman poet, DeVaughnn Boland. She was born 74 years ago. And as a teenager, she found herself as a teenage poet, she found herself in a very male Ireland. And she's had a career full of breakthroughs on behalf of women poets and on behalf of Irish poets. So DeVaughnn Boland, rest in peace. Remembering DeVaughnn Boland, the Facebook posting said, her young photo, all grays, her poem, Quarantine, collides in harmony. Full of life, DeVaughnn's gone. The plague forbids a fitting tribute. Locked down on and on, hearing that she's gone makes it even harder. Love sweeps us along as if we can't go wrong. Love sweeps us away, all dreams lovely sway. Love sweeps us away, cracked windows, birds fly out and off to heaven, and we are dust and ache. Oh, DeVaughnn. Pencil in the dark. I often wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning with my darling sleeping beside me, and if I have a poem in my mind, I write it with a pencil, which makes less noise. And often in the morning I can't read it because it was written in the dark. This one survived the trip. Monochrome to sepia, dawn was seeping through the crack. Time was winding serpentine as is its wont in prison, illness, grief, or quarantine. My sleeping darling's breath, susurrating surge of surf slide back to sea. Poetic engine stopped with a soft clunk. Even the morning crow is penitent. In another lockdown day, suddenly only endgame thoughts turn inward to vacuum-sealed, mind-flat fugue, variations on nothing. Crystal clear. Some days go by like comb teeth thumbed, some days like slack guitar strings strummed. The days are all the same now. That is, I can't remember one of them. I fight the urge to get things done. Unconsciously, that is, I fight. Unseen from the surface, a scuba diver drags a body. It's like that, the struggle that I am not a part of. So many new ghosts these days, crowned but unmourned. Facebook eulogy being of zero use in the face of time's row of tanks. There's a lot more ghosts these days, more and more, all crowned and wailing. It's enough to make you forget the 20,000 new ghosts in one day off Fukushima. This is not incarceration, this is refuge. Taking shelter as a storm blows by. So subtle, this crowning, getting wet on a dry day, out of imagination's reach, out of Momotaro's peach. This is not incarceration. Locking something out is far from being locked in. Ask Nelson Mandela. Merlin wants to read a poem. Okay, Merlin, let's read this one. Okay. Lately feeling venerable, now you're saying I'm impenetrable. But these thoughts of self-immolation have been burning on my mind. I was just 16 when I saw the monochrome, How to Feel Small, no way of thinking, feeling the mystery of why, sensing the miracle of how. Tik Kwan Duk, June 1963, asks President Ngo Dinh Diem to take compassion on the nation. Whoops. Can't stand it. 5 gallons of gas, 1 match, sat unwavering as he burnt to a crisp. They found his heart within, still pink.
Yeah. Coming up. We have all the way from sunny California, Eric DeVaughnn. Please join
Hi,
us.
Eric. Yay.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you for allowing me to be part of this. There's a lot going on in the United States right now. As I speak, cities are burning over protests, in protest to people losing their lives. So some of my poems touch on that. And unfortunately, I didn't write them in response to what currently happened, which says, this keeps happening. Some of them are about my daughter, and I will try and end on a note of hope. The first is Where the Bones Do Lie. We have forgotten how to introduce ourselves in proper settings, both predator and prey and interchangeable, who stand hunched and cloven-hooved in the ink of corners, who disguise crowing first in whisper, then in cry. Pronounce wolf, long and unnecessary, the F, a sneer drawn across bloody bottom lip, tooth tucked and half torn. I would sooner trust the shadows where living bones lie in wait. And of men quick to point out the teeth of sleeping lions, I will ever tend toward the latter. Hi, I am a bouquet of ceramic feathers in freefall interrupted, or the fractured jawbone of an ass, having tasted too much Philistine. My father was a dislocated hip in the night. This is How to Serve and Protect / How to Fear for Your Life. Be blue. Be crisp polyester press hung heavy off a bright red raging. Be mortal. Be lightning bolt hefted and hurled reckless into the beloved void. Be father. Be rush of sour soaked breath stilling a mother's candle glow. Be remorseful. Be low murmur and snuffled titter and that nigger had it coming. Be brave. Be too many be too many for we who frothy foam for your turtle dove flesh. Be honest. Be chorus of tired and rolling refrain. Afraid, I was so very. I know these words well. They often sit perched precarious on the mountainside of my tongue, carefully attuned to the slightest tremor, eager to avalanche, to spill and tumble, hit the ground like brown bodies tinned, to spread and grow, roll and collect debris until you are smothered, like me, like thin, blue forearm pressed against mahogany. This is a poem about my daughter before she was born, and a conflict that I felt, knowing she would be born into a broken home. Prayer of the unselfish. Blessed be the womb of the wounded. Blessed be the wound itself, wound a tight coil around the neck as noose. Blessed be the noose, the blessed news. Blessed be your arrival, the holy spaces you rive to rival your rending effect. Blessed be the unrivaled affection. Blessed be the unaffected, the affliction of presence. Blessed be both the present and past. Blessed be the blessings we pass on and yet will, yet if it be your will, stay your holy hand. Blessed be your hands. Bless mine too, and all they have wounded. Black hole, a gravity so dense not even light can escape. Standing in the doorway as his child's mother recounts their day, his robe draped taut on him, a pitch raven skin, the daughter wanders off in golden play. Earlier, her cousin had asked, Titi, why is Rosalie brown? Because her daddy is black. A question of color met with race. You are black, the mother says to him, but his robe does not blend, does not fade into the flesh of him. An echo still ringing in his blanched bones, but she isn't even black. Later, the golden, not black child will kick a ball. Her mother will claim with no sense of irony. What do you expect? She is Mexican. He turns to leave the room, the robe, its failing fabric a fissure, insisting upon itself yet again, sutures undone, slow, deliberate, pulled apart. This is time, as with any arbitrary construct. Day 114. One could say I'm driving reckless, stealing glances at the child I have not seen in far too long, slake her doll's thirst in my rear view, when she drops her purple sippy and looses an extended, oh no. I reach back and find it. Simple work. Say thank you, Daddy. I know she will repeat the last thing she hears. I hope she will drop it again and again. Day 115. I'm calling it, she says, after a series of mild attempts to place the child in my car seat. Hesitant, the way any mortal might surrender the pulsing fruit of his chest upon a moon-slicked altar. This is going to be my last piece. This is on gauging damage and severity. Again, thank you for having me. The fragile, having fallen, will beg to be cradled, rotated, and assessed. Press your thumbs firm into the soft middle sweet. Whisper supplication and make a blessing of bruises. Bring close your ear to the crumpled corner. Listen. Listen for the daffodils within. If they are full, there's still time.
All right.
Wow.
Thanks so much, Eric.
Eric DeVaughnn.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Coming up next, we have Omar,
Yeah,
aka the Broken Poet.
yeah, hello. I hope you guys are doing all right. Just a little bit of a content warning. This one is about kind of somebody's suicide. This one is dedicated to Hana Kimura. I don't know if you lot have heard about her, but she was a professional wrestler, and I was in Tokyo in January where she made history, being one of the first women to perform in the Tokyo Dome after 20 something years. So I just want to dedicate this to her and the power words can have on people and how they can affect people. This one's called Words. Words are powerful tools, so be careful what you say because you never know who they might affect. They say the pen is mightier than the sword. In many cases, this is true, but the words we speak or type on the screen have now become the sword and weapon of choice to hurt someone in this modern age. Language, no matter which you speak, is a beautiful thing, but can also be toxic due to the words we may choose or type on the screen. Just the tone of the way something is said or written can change the way another person feels about things in their own head. Words are powerful tools, so be careful what you say because you never know who they might affect. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. But the words we say have become the sticks and stones of today. They can seriously affect someone's mental state. With great power comes great responsibility. So just think for a second before you decide to say something or type it out on the screen. Because behind every app is another human being, not a bot. Just think, would you say that to someone's face before you type that negative thought out? Just because there is no social cues on social media doesn't give you the right to say what you like. Behind the screen, there's another person who reads what you say, another human who has thoughts, feelings, and emotions to deal with, just trying to figure out this thing called life. I know social media has given everyone a voice to say what they like. Instead of being negative, how about we learn from this and use it for change, a positive change where good things can be done with the voice you have and the power it has in it, because negativity doesn't change anything. So I hope we decide before we say or type anything negative again, because no one should have to decide to take their own life due to things a person says online. No matter what, there is always someone who loves you, no matter how lonely or distant you may feel. You are good enough, so don't let no one's words affect you, and you do you, because who knows, you can make history like Hana Kimura did. And that's my piece. Thanks very much for having me. I just want
Omar.
to say
Thank you, Omar.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Yeah.
All right, coming up next, we have straight out of London, Hikaru. Step up to the microphone.
Okay, Hikaru, take it away.
I'll read two poems written in April when we were in a stricter lockdown. So apologies if they sound a bit negative, but I tried to make them positive in the end. The first one is, this one's got a lengthy title. It's called Drunk or Not, We're Always Poets. No actual gathering happening this month because of this deadly virus and stuff. Does this mean no poetry from our mouth covered with a mask that almost chokes us? No vertigo at Shibuya Station? No ninjaing or dodging through the black and white waves of worn-out salarymen? No packed train, nor a push by a backpack? No glass of Coke to pretend I'm drinking rum? No chimes to go with or without our reading? No piano, nor the guitar, nor the drum? No songs or stories that get us going? No. But yet there's no need at all to stop writing or rhyming. Capture these moments. I'm saying this in front of my laptop instead of my lovely fellow poets. We're not in one place all together, but still we're all in this together. And this second one is also a lockdown poem. It's called Life in Lockdown. In this lockdown London 2020, where we have to keep 2 meters apart, the sudden change has given us plenty of time to sink deeply into the dark. The spring sunlight still comes into my room, as warm as a dozy cat on my lap. Cherries, daisies, and daffodils still bloom, as sweet as the dream he dreams in his nap. Though this window is barred and I feel blue, his meow gives me a tune to sing along. His hug gives me the power to pull through, telling me his heart is where I belong. When we all greet each other with an embrace again, the world will be a better place. Thank you.
Oh, Hikaru, that was
Thank
so
you.
gorgeous.
So coming up, we have Julz Riddle, straight out of Tokyo.
Hello, everyone.
Are you there,
I'm going to read something that you've all never heard before. Just a bit of prose called Cans of Beer. Yeah. Your favorite song to drink alone to is Joni Mitchell's A Case of You. Case of what, you wonder? What is she comparing the lover to? Beer? Wine? Of course, she sings, "You're in my blood like holy wine." But then she also sings, "You taste so bitter and so sweet," and you think, probably beer. In Manila, where you're from, people don't buy wine in cases or have cellars. But it seems kind of rude to drink bitter, bubbly beer to Joni Mitchell. But you know you can't do wine. You tried. You don't have the money or the time for fucking bouquets or even just for taking out the bottles you've downed throughout the week every recycling day. You drink beer, all kinds of it. Sometimes you drink it from a can. You grew up with 4 brothers. You're as good as raised by wolves. Opening bottles don't excite you as much as opening cans. There's just not as much fizz. Your hands don't get hurt. To you, opening a can of beer feels a bit like going to war, even if all you're about to do is sit there and be by yourself. Trash day for cans is on Tuesdays where you are, and on Tuesdays, you take out your beer cans. Your neighbors see how many you had and which ones, but that's all right. You can also see how many they had and which ones. They also drank while you were drinking. You could hear their music through the walls. Miles Davis, Stravinsky, Hikaru. Everyone needs a ritual. You wonder if they're also women. You remember seeing a 1939 beer ad from when the Philippines was occupied by the Americans. It featured a woman pitching a baseball saying something about how San Miguel beer is for women who can, quote, hold their own, end quote. Born decades after the independence, even you had to learn how to be this woman, someone who had to measure up, someone who likes things that are bitter. Now that you are away from home, you miss drinking that damn beer and look for it in every bar. Case of You was used in the movie Practical Magic, which starred Sandra Bullock. You grew up watching Sandra Bullock's rom-coms, though you would never admit it. Watching her in Miss Congeniality, eating frozen food, boxing a punching bag, in 2 weeks' notice, binging Chinese food, and while you were sleeping, taking down Christmas ornaments as her cat watches on. For some reason, she always has a cat. You always think, God, this girl could really use a drink. And this is supposed to be the saddest part too, but it's your favorite part because everyone's just leaving her the fuck alone. It's always at home and it's always at night, always at a time that is ripe for ritual. You never really understood drunkenness and love. You just live it through Joni Mitchell or Nina Simone or Amy Winehouse, Lilac Wine, Rehab, A Case of You. Nobody's got time for that these days, though. You remember a 1968 PSA for women, warning them to not drink too much, or else they could end up one of 2 things. 1, too hungover, too drunk to work the next day, or 2, tied to a hospital bed, having gone insane from too much drinking. But somehow that is exactly what you want. You just want to not function for a second. You just want to be allowed to think anything, really anything. You just want some space for chaos before having to still be on your feet. Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you, Julz.
So I have 2 kinds of poems. It's actually 3 poems, but so one of them is a proper poem that I wrote last year, I think, and it's a very nostalgic poem. But I've become nostalgic again, maybe because I'm home like all the time, so I miss people even more, people and places. So I want to read that one, although it's from last year. It's called Collecting Dust. My feet are searching for broken, tattered sidewalks and cracks on old buildings that give birth to flowers. Today, I want to walk across the old bridges, avoid the potholes and curse the old buses. Today, I want to buy something from the corner shop. My heart wants to be late to somewhere, to chit-chat with the photocopier people, to rage together with the taxi driver about this fucking traffic, and the waiter in the warm cafe slyly recommends something he thinks is much better. And now we're both conspirators. We are on the same team. Today, I want to live past lives as she reads only for me, the writer from my birth country, in the room full of people that are so like us, but not exactly. In that smallest crack of differences, me and her curled up, and she is reading in our language, our mothers taught us, the words that are slowly tiptoeing away from me when I'm not looking. Today, I want to huddle in the bus stop, complain about the city lying upside down there in the reflection in the puddle, gasping for air. I want to buy sunflower seeds on the street and socks from the bazaar. Today, all of my homes weigh on me as a soggy book forgotten outside, as the voice of the writer who has to explain again where she's from while she's visiting my new home. Today, my bones told me past homes will always be that, homes, albeit in glass balls, trapped like little huts, peppered with fake snow. And on days like this, I shake it and the snow falls. So that's very nostalgic one, right? Missing the city and missing other hometowns that are not Tokyo, but missing Tokyo, honestly. So I read the poem first because it's a little bit, dramatic and emotional. So now I want to go to something funny. So I experimented recently with a poetry writing bot. So this bot helps you write a poem. So you kind of give the bot all the words you want to use, like, kind of the most important words, and then you give the bot the shapes, the rhymes, and then the bot fills in the blanks, and it's hilarious, like the way the bot comes up with like rhymes and stuff. So I thought I'm gonna read that. So I don't know, this is a collaboration. Like it's not completely mine. This poem is like mostly the bot, but it's ridiculous, and I wanted to read it because it's like so funny. It's exactly what we need, I think. So I used words like drunk poets to be like the key, the key words, drunk poets, and I asked the bot to write me a, tanka poem. So having like this Japanese form and, drunk poets. So this is what the bot says. I dig my poet. She is so drunk and restless. She has rife poems and gradual silences. When she purrs, I feel happy. My bot is very romantic, guys. My bot loves you. Then the topic of the times is Corona. So no need to shy away from it. I was like, okay, write me a poem about Corona. And I told the bot to use Corona, a bunch of other words. And I told the bot I'm like, can you, use alliteration? The bot went all out, like all out, okay? So the bot says, Corona. The cold Corona comes carelessly. The cold Corona creates casually. The ciliary Corona considers kindly. The circular Corona continues cautiously. The ciliated Corona contains crazily. The crazy Corona communicates cowardly. The cool Corona complains clearly. The cute Corona compares cleverly. The caring Corona confirms creatively. The clean Corona calculates clumsily. The cold Corona comes carelessly. I mean, this bot is deep. And the last one is my favorite. So I saved it for last, okay? I asked the bot to write a love poem for my cat. Okay, so I gave the bot the keywords, how does my cat look like and stuff, and like, decided on the, the rhyming pattern. And this one is the best. For my fluffy cat. Roses are red, violets are blue, pillows are fluffy, and so are you. Orchids are white, ghost ones are rare, shoes are shiny, and so is your hair. Magnolia grows with buds like eggs, a coat is furry, and so are your legs. Sunflowers reach up to the skies, beans are green, and so are your eyes. Foxes in hedges surround the farms, a day is warm, and so are your arms. Daisies are pretty, daffodils have style. A father is absent, and so is your smile. A cat is beautiful, just like you. So the father is, the absent father is my favorite.
Yay!
Okay, next we got Greg from Chiba.
Oh, okay.
Come on in, Greg.
I'm going to read 4 poems. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Okay. So I'm going to read 4 short ones. This one's about shopping. The sandal shop saleswoman says Chinese bones and brains and nerves and fingers and blood are selling better now than Indonesian bones and brains and nerves and fingers and blood. Not sure why, she said, but recently New York, Tokyo, Shanghai, and London are sending vision and focus and power into Vietnam and the Philippines. A young woman passes the storefront, her hair glowing like the food court menu displays. I've been in love 3 times in my life, twice with a woman, once with a cloud. I fell hard for the cloud, cried hard when it started to drift across the sky without me. Sometimes its shape looked like a goldfish, sometimes a ship with a wall of white billowing sails. Whether altostratus or cumulonimbus, captivating. I could never take my eyes away. One day I looked and saw it had never been a cloud at all, but an erupting, and then a dormant, and finally an extinct volcano. Now, keeping my eyes low, I do not watch the sky. This one's about fishing. You have to go all around, go all around somewhere, some many places to get somewhere, sometimes to get somewhere. Against itself sometimes, against itself, against all against all of itself, against all sometimes to get somewhere. Unconscious breathing, turning, forming, all things, all forms, all you have to blind eye all them sometimes. Stare off, sometimes stare off, stare away and go, sometimes go, just go, just go. You'll wait for me, I'll come back, you'll wait, fish, I'll come back with something far off, something, come back, come back. Not supposed to make this sound, one could say, it's not supposed to make this sound, one says, yes, but it does, it does. Impossible, 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 astonishing, impossible, isn't it? What I brought, what I brought. At the long tail end of hyper-consumer capitalism, my son sits in a camping chair on the veranda, playing with slime, a goo concocted of silicone polymer with coconut scent. The sun is shining. There is no school. There is no dinner to hunt, no approaching storms, just games and TV and shadows creeping across the room. In the fall of the Han Dynasty, an intrepid monk came upon some money on the road. He tied it in a bundle and hung it from a tree so that the owner might come along and find it. When he came back through, the fearful villagers had seen the money there and bundled and hung their own money all over the tree. We are not at that point yet. Each morning we take a reading, then start thinking about breakfast. There are rips in the knees of my pajamas. My daughter is devoting her life to jump rope. Tomorrow, who knows? Maybe boot camp, maybe the wilderness. But now, today, it feels like we've won civilization. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks very much, Greg.
Thanks.
Coming up next, the inimitable Eddie Hara.
Otherwise known as the last minute poet.
The last minute.
That's right. I was writing until 10 minutes ago.
Ah.
And I'm not sure if it works or not. This is based on, not the lockdown, but, coronavirus, effect. And as kind of, a hardworking person, I can't stand with this situation. So I wrote this poetry, to dedicate to those, hardworking people as same as me. And especially to temp workers. I really mean temp workers in Japan are slaves, corporate slaves. The lowest of the lowest, which I want to complain. So I wrote some, I tried to figure it out, clear. Okay, I start. Ascetics a la mode. One more box adds one more wrinkle on her forehead, and more bitter ambience from her warns everyone to back off. Don't ask, don't tell. She was busy with preparing pricey chocolate to her bosses, not for her love nor gratitude to them, but under the pressure of this biased Valentine's Day tradition. Too many questions are never said dance in minds of workers as they are asked to go on the front line of this battlefield where no end nor peace are seen. They are left alone but monitored by the stupid generals from Glass House far off. Greasing their ribs and fingered with junk food, they say, stay home and starve, or get out and fight for your food and our companies. Ultimately, ridiculous choice under the fashion of separate but equal in this beautiful nation, according to a spoiled prime minister.
Nice one, Ari.
Nice. Rhys is coming up next. Mike Rhys. Mr. Mike Rhys.
It's story time.
It's story time.
With Mr. Mike Reed.
Yeah.
There you are. Hey, Mike.
Hello.
What story you've got for us?
Before I read the story, I should say two things. One is actually I am very much a cat lover. Absolutely. And two, Lawrie, if your cat's still around, you might want to cover his ears. This is The Last Wish of Arthur Middleton. Arthur's cat died. It was only a year after Arthur himself had laid dying on a sterile hospital bed, his wife holding tightly to his hand as he gave his last wish. "When the cat goes," he had said, "I want him cremated and then put in with my ashes. You promise me, my love. He's been a special friend to me, that little cat. I know he's got a few years left in him, but when the time comes, you promise me." She added it to the list, just below the promise that she would move on, as Arthur had called it, and find herself someone else to look after her and keep her company. Find someone, fat chance, she thought that evening, looking at herself in the mirror. Not at my age, and especially at my weight. She went into the kitchen to feed the cat. Mrs. Middleton lived on the 26th floor of a drab London tower block. They had bought the flat years ago on the right-to-buy scheme. Arthur was still there, in a little blue urn on the shelf over the TV. The cat didn't seem to miss him. It sat as it always did, looking out of the window at the dull urban London landscape spread out far below. At least it used to, until that day she found the little cold body curled up on the settee. "Oh, you poor thing," she thought. She wrapped the dead cat in one of Arthur's old shirts and put it under the sink next to the domestos and the dishcloths. She then picked up the yellow pages and flicked through to P for pet services, crematoriums. Sitting on the little stool in the hallway, she listened carefully as the sympathetic worker explained the procedure. "Thank you," said Mrs. Middleton. "I'll think about it." She put down the receiver and went back to the small Formica table in the kitchen. £140, she said to the closed door under the sink. "More if I want an urn. I know the council would take you away for nothing, but I promised Arthur I'd have you in with him." £140 was more than she had at the best of times, but now, with the lockdown, she had lost her little job cleaning for the local pizza restaurant, and all she had left was a small pension. "I suppose I could put you in the freezer and then save up for a bit, but it's already full, what with me being stuck up here and I can't go shopping as often as I want." She sighed. "Oh, Arthur, even beyond the grave, you're being a right royal pain." She filled the kettle and put it on the burner before sitting down again at the small table. The old white gas cooker hissed gently as the blue flame heated the water. She looked at the dark square window of the oven below. The oven. I don't suppose, she thought. The cat wouldn't quite fit on the baking tray. Its tail hung limply over the side. She opened the kitchen drawer and took out a pair of scissors. "It don't need to be the whole cat, does it, Arthur? I mean, I don't even know if there's enough room in your urn for all of him anyway." Snip. "That's better," she said, looking at the little tailless body. "And I'm not sure about your fur. I mean, we'd never put a chicken in the oven with its feathers on, would we? Probably create an awful stink. No, that won't do." In the small bathroom, she opened the plastic cabinet over the sink and took out Arthur's old razor and can of shaving foam. "Glad I didn't get around to throwing these away," she said. She rubbed the white lemon-scented foam over the cold, furry body, then drew the razor carefully along the back. The fur bunched up, damp and sticky on the razor, as it cut a clean, pink strip of flesh. She giggled to herself. "All the same underneath, aren't we? Just soft and pink." She shaved the rest of the body as best she could until it lay cold and naked, with only the head remaining with fur intact. "Don't know if I can do your head with this razor. It's a bit tricky. Well, there's an easy fix for that," she said, taking out the scissors again. Snip, snip. She dropped the remains into a black bin bag, then washed her hands under the tap and turned again to the pink flesh on the table. Simply out of habit, She trussed up what was left of the little animal, then took out some tinfoil. She turned to the oven. Should I preheat it? She wondered out loud. Well, that's what I'd normally do, so I suppose so. And I don't suppose it should be too hot. I know I want to burn it, but I need the whole thing done, not just the outside. And I don't want no smoke. I guess I should take it slow, like a regular chicken, but longer, I suppose. Oh, Arthur would have known. She turned the oven on, gas mark 5, then set the old wind-up timer for 10 minutes. She sat back at the table, flicking through an old magazine. The cat, pink, cold meat under the tinfoil on the baking tray beside her. Halfway through an article on decoupage, the timer bell rang for a few brief seconds. Mrs. Middleton stood, picked up the baking tray, and opened the window. Right, in you go, she said, sliding it in. I suppose this is where I should say a little prayer or something, but I don't know anything. She looked at the little mound of tinfoil through the glass. Well, thank you for keeping Arthur amused for a couple of years. She turned on the fan, then went to take a bath. The not unpleasant smell of gently cooking cat permeated the small flat. Mrs. Middleton stepped out of the bathroom and was immediately reminded of the roasts she would cook for Arthur every Sunday until he grew too ill to eat them. She hadn't made a roast since. Oh my, she said aloud. She sat again at the kitchen table, looking at the dark, dimly lit world inside the oven. There was a quiet knock at the front door, small and strangely polite. In her dressing gown and with her hair wrapped up in a towel, she went to the door and looked through the peephole. Outside was a man with a sad, worn face. His white hair was neatly brushed back and he wore a dark jacket over a striped polo shirt. There was a small flower in the lapel. Who puts a flower in their lapel anymore? Mrs. Middleton thought. Who is it? She called through the front door. Oh, hello, it's Mr. James from next door. Sorry to trouble you. She slid off the security chain and opened the door. I'm ever so sorry, and I don't mean to disturb you, but I couldn't help but smell whatever delightful thing you have cooking. And I know it's been a while because we used to get the most delicious aromas coming from your flat, but it stopped a while back, and I was just wondering what it was. Mrs. Middleton smiled nervously. It's just a little something. It was my husband's favourite. Your husband? Yeah, while he was alive. Oh, I see. Yeah, my wife too. She did all the cooking. Never thought about it much before she died, but, well, now it's all beans on toast or something instant, isn't it? It was the smell, you see. It just reminded me of her, you know, and it's been so long. And I was just wondering if you could maybe see your way to, well, perhaps teaching me a little something about cooking. There was an awkward pause, filled with a deep longing. Oh, well, you're more than welcome to join me if you'd like. Oh, that's very generous if you really don't mind. No, not at all. Just give me half an hour to clean myself up. Oh, you don't have to really, but half an hour, of course, half an hour then. Mrs. Middleton closed the door and stood in the half-darkness. All right then, she said with a sigh and turned. She went quickly into the front room to the little blue urn on the mantelpiece. Well, it is what you wanted, Arthur, dear, she said as she picked him up and carried him into the kitchen. She put him into the cupboard under the sink, then went to the little basket next to the refrigerator and took out 2 carrots and a big onion.
Oh, Mike. You've done it again. Wow, the cat's out of the bag into the oven.
Oh, yeah.
Meow. That was terrible. Oh, my God. I don't know if it was brilliant or if
Sorry
it was
to say,
terrible.
The look on your faces.